Welcome to the Veteran Spouse Network podcast, brought to you in collaboration with Coming Home Well. I'm your host, Hannah O'Brien, both a veteran spouse and the program manager for the Veteran Spouse Network. On each episode of our show, I will host different guests to learn more about the stories, unmet needs, and resources available to our military and veteran families. We're the show that's making space for your stories, so that here you know you're never alone.
Welcome back to the Veteran Spouse Network podcast. Here at the VSN, working with spouses and families, most of our peer group discussions tend to center on relationship challenges, and especially the impact that mental health challenges can have on a relationship. One thing we always aim to make clear is that no matter the mental health challenges your partner may be dealing with, when it comes to issues of safety, safety has to come first. And sure, that sounds simple enough, but when you layer in marriage, children, love, mental health, the fact that this spouse may be a caregiver to their veteran loved one, and everything else that's layered into a relationship, it's not so simple. And it's so easy for us, looking from the outside in, to simplify it, but it's not our life. We don't know what's really going on, and that's why it's paramount to talk to and hear from people who've been there, especially those who have made it to the other side. And that's why I'm truly grateful to be joined today by one of our incredible peer leaders, Tanya Mac. Tanya was in our very first leader training for our Veteran Spouse Resiliency Group program over 8 years ago, if you believe it or not, and has been helping us support spouses and families ever since. Whether you're in an unsafe relationship yourself, wondering how to get out, or if you're unsure if your relationship is safe, or if you're someone who wants to better understand how to support a loved one who may be in a similar situation, I hope you leave this episode feeling better informed, more supported, and less alone. So with that, Tanya, I'd love to turn it over to you to tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, hi. So yes, my name's Tanya Mac. I'm a mom, I'm an artist, I'm a mental health trainer, and like Hannah said, I've been part of the Veteran Spouse Network since 2017. I've spent, I would say, the last decade of my life working with veterans, working in the mental health field, really trying to help not only veterans, but spouses, their families really heal. And I guess somewhere along the way, I don't even know where, I realized that I needed to kind of help myself and take that advice that I had been giving out to, the community around me. Um, I don't know exactly where I realized it. But I've definitely lived through a relationship from maybe the outside seemed okay, looked okay, but was really like eroding my own self-worth. Um, I don't want to say my story is I don't want to blame anyone or be bitter about it. I want to focus on like the growth and like the forgiveness and the truth of how people can change and trying to make sure that, you are safe and, kind of show anybody listening that you can heal from whatever it is that you've lived through. So.
Love that. And, I can certainly relate as, right, when we work in this space and we say all these things to all of our participants and help them, it's so easy for us to forget to live it. So, good reminders all around. Every single time I have a conversation like that, I'm like, okay, and you practice too. Like,
Yeah. Yes.
So I know like something you, all of us here too often when we're working with our participants is that like people just don't necessarily even understand what a healthy relationship looks like versus what an unsafe relationship looks like and kind of the spectrum of types of controlling or abusive behaviors. And so they might not even like know to look for certain things. So I'm curious, if you can tell us a bit more about that, in what you know, but also just
Yeah.
from your own experience.
Well, for me, it wasn't about like being told what I could do or where I could go or anything like that. I know I hear that a lot of like my spouse controls the money or they want to know where I'm going all the time. Like that wasn't my experience. And I know that can be for many. For me, it was more of like the fear that crept in slowly after we had been together of always being worried that I was going to upset him
Mhm.
or how what I did or what I said or things even like my clothes or how I parented or my hair, you can't see me, but like I've had blue hair, I've had pink hair, I've had lime green hair. Um, and the comments that would come from those like choices that I made. Um, and it wasn't even like you can't have that. It was just the comments surrounding it that would make me question myself and then make me change the way I think about myself, which really like it really did. And it still has like changed the way I do things. Which isn't like the typical controlling when you think of like a controlling relationship. I don't think about that, but that's how my experience was. Um, I guess how I reacted to things or kind of that feeling of like you hear people say, "Oh, I'm constantly walking on eggshells." Like that's how I felt, not at the beginning of the relationship, but like never at the beginning, but eventually that's kind of how it was. Feeling like I was never doing anything right, no matter what I did. Everything, food, dinner, shopping, planning, all of the things. So I ended up losing any trust I had in myself and my own instincts. And I think that's when I realized like this isn't what I want. This isn't right. But even at that point, I didn't see what was happening for what it was.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I just overthought everything and tried to avoid mistakes, which then would usually create more mistakes or more problems for myself and our relationship. Um, but yeah.
No, I mean, obviously I was about to say I love that you're sharing that. I don't love that that was your experience. But I think it's important to hear that because we do hear a lot of that type of experience. And I think it's really easy for people, especially in our community, and especially if their veteran has like is dealing with a mental health challenge, to be like, well, that's
Hmm.
the PTSD. Like, that's not, and so I need to be there and like take
Yeah.
that and support them. So I'm curious what you think about that, especially having your mental health background as well.
Yeah. So it's, I don't know. I think it's a little tricky because, yes, I didn't go through what he did. And, as a spouse, you don't go through the things that your veteran does. And maybe you don't have, a TBI. And so you make excuses for that person. Um, and I think it's okay I think you should consider the things that they have gone through, but not at your own detriment.
Yeah.
Um, if you are getting smaller and feeling worse about yourself, like there has to be some sort of boundary in line. And for me, at least, like I look back and like I don't want to just point the finger at him and blame him. Like I don't want to do that. I know that there's things that I should have said, like you're making me feel this way, but I didn't have boundaries. I grew up in a family that we didn't talk about our feelings. So like you just did the things to make sure that dad and whatever were happy so that you weren't in trouble. So I grew up in that atmosphere and then I didn't want to cause problems and I'm a people pleaser and I'm a perfectionist. So like I wanted my relationship to also be that way. So if he wasn't happy, then I was trying to fix whatever it was to make sure that he was happy, even though logically a lot of it didn't make sense.
Yeah,
So,
it's costing you.
and it was, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and you mentioned your upbringing and like, having something a relationship pattern modeled, like this is normal, right? Like this
yeah.
is this is what this is. I know also you were pretty young when y'all got together, right? Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so
I sorry.
no, no, you're
No,
good.
I was definitely young. I feel like I grew up in a house. I was the youngest of three. My brother and sister were much older than me, like 5 and 7 years. So like eventually it was my parents and me in the house.
Mm.
And so, you I was raised to kind of stay quiet and not complain. And maybe that's just the way I thought I needed to be,
Mm.
right? Like, I don't know. That's just how things were for me.
Yeah.
Stay quiet, don't make them mad, stay out of all of, the main areas so that I can just keep to myself or whatever.
Mhm.
But I definitely, now looking back, see that I was trying to hold things together at home as a child and like as a teenager or whatever, but then also in my relationship when I did get married, because I was 21 when
Mm.
I met him and we got married shortly after, and he was 8 years older than me. So not only was I young, naive, didn't really know what a relationship should look like other than like TV relationships, which
Yeah,
that's,
right. Yeah.
you know, TV. Um, so I didn't know what it was supposed to look like or what it was supposed to feel like. But eventually, I realized what I was dealing with and how I was feeling wasn't what I wanted to deal with and feel for the rest of my life. Um,
Totally.
yeah, I don't know.
No, I mean, yeah, I think, and I like that you're like bringing it back to you because I think that to me, as someone who hasn't been through that and who has, I have a close friend who has, but like the self part, it's like that. I think that's the place to focus, right? Is like how are you being made to feel in this relationship? Because that's all you can control, right? Is
Yeah,
yourself. And so you can't make them be a different way. And even if you could, who knows if they would, like sort of thing.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I feel like that's really valuable to hear is just like being able to have the self-awareness. So I guess that kind of leads me to like when and how did you start to like notice that? Like start having that self-awareness of like, wow, this is not making me feel good and this is not how I want to be. And then how did you feel about that when you started realizing that?
It feels so long ago. So like I don't know exactly when it
Yeah.
started, but definitely I would say before I got pregnant with my daughter, things weren't great. Um, I guess the typical fights I saw as a kid were similar to what I was experiencing, but I thought it was normal.
Right.
So it just continued. Like my ex-husband is very similar to my dad, especially when he's different now, I would say, as he's older.
Mhm.
But like me growing up with my dad was very similar to how my ex acted.
Yeah.
So everything was familiar. And I knew that I didn't like how my mom had to deal with things. And I don't know when it clicked in my brain. I don't know. At
Yeah.
some point, it kind of just was like, this is not how I want to live. This isn't like, I don't want this. And then I got pregnant. So then, then I have a kid.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I just focused all of my energy onto her. Um, and that kept me really good for a really long time, regardless of what was going on between me and him. Because I just put all my energy, all my love, all my focus into keeping like her happy, her healthy, and like enjoying the time that I had with her. Um, I think it really shifted when she was little. I talking, but like still in the crib. Probably should have been
Mhm.
in a big bed by then, but like wasn't quite yet. And I just remember one night like putting her to bed and like she grabbed my face and was like, "It's okay, mama. Like I know daddy doesn't love you, but I do."
Wow.
And so like that
Mhm.
uh, I still get obviously
Yeah.
I still get upset by that. Um but it's crazy because even at that point I didn't leave.
Yeah.
Like I knew like and seeing her know that at such a little age, um, I would pack his things and then unpack them and we would argue and fight. And he traveled a lot back then. So like I had periods of like just me and her. So it was great. So it was almost like and I feel terrible even saying this, but like it was okay when he was gone because I didn't have to deal with him. And could enjoy the time with her. But I think it was after, I don't know, I guess 2020 when like everyone was at home and there wasn't any more traveling and we were together. But even at that point, it was kind of better. It was better, but I think I had already deteriorated so much of my own self-worth. I didn't trust myself. I didn't have any like another like very hard thing for me is he would joke that I had no value. He'd say zero value. We'd be out in public and he'd put his hands up and be like zero value. Like from far away I could see him. So like that still hurts me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just went through many, many years of feeling small and like starting to lose, like completely lose who I was and like the happiness inside me. And the only happiness I really had was with my daughter. Um, I don't even know what you asked me at this point.
I mean, when you kind of were feeling that you were starting to see the impacts of that, and I mean, I think you're answering it is that it's complicated. Like,
Yeah.
like it continued to be complicated because things changed, or, and then they
Hmm.
didn't, and then they did, and then they didn't.
Yeah, and I think for many people it's like you have these cycles where
Mm,
it's really really bad and then it gets better. And then it's kind of bad and then it's really bad and then it gets better. So you're stuck in this cycle of like hoping that things will change and hoping that those little good moments will last longer. Um but I just kept getting thrown into the cycle and back and forth and not knowing what to do. I think the reason I stayed so long is because of some of the things that I felt controlled by him.
mm,
Um, because, he did say, like, he knew what I loved, Scout. He knew that. He knew that I loved my job. So he would tell me, like, you're gonna, if we split up, you're not going to have a job. I'm going to make sure you get fired. I'm going to take our daughter from you. Like all the things that I had that I actually enjoyed, he claimed that he was going to take them from me. So I stayed
yeah,
for many years before I was just like, I can't do this. If 50-50 is the worst I get, like that's got to be it.
yeah,
Um, but it took me a very long time to get to that point.
yeah. And I mean, it's the story you told about your daughter, is incredibly powerful. Like I also got emotional hearing you say that. Um, so she was seeing things. So like, how did you? Are there other ways that you saw that relationship dynamic impacting her or felt?
So yeah, so I remember that very vividly. But even after that, she had a close friend from like preschool and kindergarten that her parents were divorced. And she would say, like, I don't want you and daddy to get divorced. Like, it would be random. Like, I remember driving and getting her cake pop at Starbucks, like, before we were going, I don't know where. And she said it. And it was just like, no, that's not going to happen. Um, but like she knew it wasn't right. She
Yeah,
knew the thing, even at a tiny little age, she knew that stuff wasn't okay. Like I remember her putting her hand on me at the dinner table underneath the table at one point because he was yelling. And like, her little tiny hand just like rubbing you, like, and I'm like, what in the world is going on? My little 4, 5, 6-year-old is comforting her mom from
yeah,
stuff that her dad was saying. Um, so those were and it makes me feel so bad that like I allowed those things to happen. And for her to see them because I want her to see a strong, person that like she wants to be and doesn't feel bad for.
hmm,
So those are things that still like upset me about it, but I try now to like change that and empower her and show her. Um, and we like she gets annoyed with me because I talk a lot about like this is night like these are loving things and this is not.
yeah,
Um, But yeah, it's because of the things that she did see.
Yeah, and I imagine like you're talking about like it made it harder for you to see because of how you were raised. So like making sure, that she understands and doesn't, fall into the same patterns, I imagine, because we know that these cycles can go on and on forever if people don't break
Yeah.
them. So that's really cool that you're not just breaking them for yourself, but which is incredibly powerful on its own, but for her as well.
Yeah.
Um, so I think another thing we hear a lot about is the people in your outside circle, right? The friends,
Hmm.
the family. And you had said that early on. Like I think from the outside, right? Like it looked pretty normal. But were people like noticing anything, talking to you, saying things, had concerns?
No.
Yeah.
No. I look back at it now. Nobody said anything to me while it was happening.
Mhm.
There was definitely times that I can think of that I'm like, man, how did no one say a word to me?
Yeah.
Or how did no one say something to him?
Hmm.
I think there's like maybe one time that I remember his best friend being like, bro, like to telling him like
Yeah.
to
Not cool.
chill or whatever. But usually though in those instances, it was more embarrassing for me that I just wanted to like disappear. Like
Yeah.
I just wanted nobody to hear that or nobody to have seen that. And a lot of the stuff that he did, I think people thought were joking, but like didn't realize that that was something that he would say to me in mean ways at home.
Yeah.
So like people would laugh because they thought it was like joking and funny, but like it was crushing me inside. Um, I think when we eventually did split and things like very clearly like I had this family that I thought was my family, our friends and all the close people, like all of his military friends and whatever. And it was just like I was cut off from everything in an instant. Um, I think one of the hardest things for me was the people that were like, I didn't share much. I think I did share a little bit with like two people, or they had at least seen things. Um, that then when we split, they like kind of wrote me off in a way
Mm.
that was really hard. And then when I did talk to a few others, and honestly, I don't even know why they reached out. Who knows? But they're like, well, why didn't you, if that was true, then why didn't you leave? Or why didn't you say something? And it's like, there's a million reasons why I didn't say anything. I wasn't ready to leave. I was scared to leave. I thought that he was going to take my kids. Like, there's so many reasons. So that question just like is a frustrating one. Um,
And then you're
and
doing work for them.
yeah,
Not
but
not supportive, I imagine, at all.
yeah, but yeah, nobody really talked about it. And then the only people like after the fact, like my actual family, which was frustrating, and I've heard it now more so than I would like, is like, well, we didn't think that was very nice, or we didn't think that was okay, but you seemed, happy. So we didn't want to like, and we didn't want to, cause any problems. But I don't know if it would have changed what
Mm.
I did. I don't know if it would have changed how long I stayed, or I don't know. I don't know if that would have changed anything, but it does make me wonder. And now when I notice things with other people, like I want to be the one that says something like, "Hey,
Yeah.
that's not okay." Like, do you want to talk about it or anything? Because I didn't realize I was so alone, but after the fact it's like, man, I wish somebody would have talked to me about it. I wish somebody would have pointed it out and didn't just like close their eyes to it.
Yeah. Did you
But
ever think about talking to other people about it?
I downplayed everything when I would talk about us, like, like in normal conversations, like, oh, how are you and whatever. Like,
Mhm.
oh, not that bad. Like, we're pretty good, not that bad. But like, even that answer is like, not
Telling.
that bad. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Um, so I guess now, like, when I talk to close friends and I'm like, how's everything going? And then they're like, eh, I'll ask more
Yeah.
questions. I'm more aware at this point.
Yeah. So I guess I mean that in and of itself is easy, good advice. Hey, just like listen, ask the questions, have the conversation, but like, is there anything else you would like say, like, so if someone's listening and they're like, yeah, I'm concerned about somebody, or, how can I, because I can certainly remember from my own experience with a very close personal friend, like met in sixth grade type of friend, um, who'd been in it, and all my friends were like, we got to do something about this. Hannah, you're the social worker, like you figure this out. And we were all terrified. Like we were truly terrified. It didn't like I felt like any and all of my training like went out the window as soon as
Right.
they like said that, because it was just like there was this like crippling fear of making it worse
Mm-hmm.
for her, and making her feel worse, making her feel more isolated, like pushing, her closer to it. So I know, at least in our experience, there was like, we know we have to do it. Like, we know we can't just like sit silently by this. Like,
Yeah.
we had witnessed things. But there was a lot of fear. So, speaking from yourself as someone who's been through it, but also someone who is quite experienced and skilled in telling other people how to talk to people when they're going through something difficult. Like, what's the advice? Like, if someone's worried about someone else's relationship, what can they do?
Um, I think there's a few things, but yes, it directly ties into like if someone's going through like a mental health challenge or um those types of things, but checking in with them regularly, letting them know like, hey, you might not want to talk to me now, but like I'm here. Call me whenever you need, text me whenever you need. Um, and reassuring them multiple times, not just like asking one time, like, okay, they said they're done, they're
Yeah.
good. And if you have that feeling, or like you said, like you saw things, you knew, just continuing to check in with that person. Um, the first time that someone says something or it's brought to their attention, it's probably more shocking than anything. But then just like when you ask somebody about suicide, it might be the first time and it might be a relief for them to actually talk about it. Like I feel like it's like the same thing here. Um, Talking about the things and actually saying them out loud. Because when I first started saying the things out loud that happened to me, I'm like, holy crap, like that wasn't good. Like that was not good. But until I said it aloud, I didn't realize how bad it was because I was downplaying it in my own brain.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I would say checking in with them, making sure that they know that like you're there at all times, or like whenever they might feel like they're wanting to talk. And then you could always just offer up resources too. Um, like depending on where you live, or like because there's actually like a domestic abuse like awareness text line.
Mm-hmm.
So like you can use that. Sorry, that's my blood sugar. This makes me a little anxious, so it's, going up a little bit. um, but like giving them resources and just offering those things up, they might think like, or might not want to be like, I don't need that, but maybe they will. Maybe they'll use it. You don't know. And I think sharing and being more open with that person will hopefully allow them to feel safe to talk to you, because you could still be their best friend. It could be my sister, right? And that I tell all kinds of things to, but like maybe that one thing I wouldn't have done until she started reaching out multiple times. um but just being persistent, not giving up, and being open and like non-judgmental,
Yeah.
um that's a huge one, because nobody wants to feel judged. Nobody wants to feel like they're doing the wrong thing. And I knew I was in a bad relationship, but I hid it
Mhm.
and I didn't want anybody to know. So just allowing whatever it is and kind of just being open to whatever they want to share, or if they don't want to share. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Just being the presence, letting them know you're there and being consistent.
yeah.
And I know, for certain people who are like more involved with my friends, like that was sometimes frustrating because of the cycles that you're talking about, right? So they'd like be there but I mean, you're absolutely right. It's like, it's just has to be the consistency uh,
Hmm.
and the non-judgmental empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up the line. I know, like, so that was like the first thing I did was I went to, domestic violence hotline.org, which is a great website. It has all the local resources so people know what's in their community. But it also has a lot of resources for like the people on the other side of it, like how to have those conversations, how
Hmm.
to be supportive. So also that resource wherever you might be, if you just want to know more and aren't like sure what do these behaviors look like? Is this showing up in my relationship? Or
Yeah.
how can I get connected to resources, or how can I support someone? There are great resources out there. So also just like educate yourself.
Yeah.
Educate yourself. Um, so then you obviously you made the decision to choose yourself and um like like seriously. Um so I don't know, is there anything you want to say about that? Like how that felt like making the decision, like coming to the I'm going to do this and then I'm doing this. It's happening.
It all happened so fast.
Yeah.
It's like I went through years of like back and forth, and once it was the decision was made, everything was just happening so quickly. Um, once once things were like I felt safe and there was no fear of like him coming to the house, or like we had, paperwork
Mhm.
and all of that, like I finally felt like, okay, I can sleep. Because I got to the point where I had my daughter sleeping in my bed because I was afraid that he was going to come and hurt me. So, like, once, I had the new cameras up in my house and I had all the things, um, I finally, like, slept and was able to feel okay. At that point in my life though, like my closest people, like my best friend was like staying with me all the time and helping me because it was hard. Like I had been with him for a decade,
Yeah.
and thought that I would be with him forever. Um so like any breakup is hard, but then add on these extra, you know, I don't even know what you want to call it, but
Yeah.
extra things. Um but I would say like right after that, it was finally like freeing. Like I didn't have to worry about all the silly things that I worried about before. Um, and I could eat when I wanted and do what I wanted. And it sounds so terrible, like, but I overthought everything I did when
Yeah.
I was with him. So being able to just like have fun with my daughter and go out with a friend, um, is definitely like freeing.
Yeah.
I, and yeah, I did a lot of painting and all of that. Um, but it was definitely it was a weird time.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like, yeah, you're starting to talk about that healing journey. I know your art is a part of that. I know giving back to the community, which we were doing the whole time, but is a part of that. So, yeah, tell us a little bit more about what that experience has been for you, where you've been channeling some of that, and getting some of the healing and the growth.
Yeah, so I've always painted. Um, but after we split, my painting changed, I would say. At least for a little while right then, like very, very different. I started really painting like the emotions that I didn't know how to talk about.
Mhm.
Um, the anger, the confusion, the grief. Um, I was able to create these paintings that like on the outside looked bright and happy, and some of them maybe look at them like, what does that even mean? What is that? But I knew what it meant. And I knew how it felt for me. Back then, I I would videotape me painting most of the painting, and then I would like link it to different songs that like I felt strongly that matched those paintings. Um which I don't know. I imagine probably gave a lot of information to people when they're watching it,
Mhm.
as well as him watching it. Um, and then I feel like almost every artist kind of goes through phases of like maybe you're painting a lot and then you're not, then you are, then you're not. I've always kind of been that way, but more recently I started doing like a series of like the rooms inside me.
Mhm.
And these are not just about the relationship with him. It's, how I grew up and how I felt then and how it kind of transformed into the relationships that I've had as an adult. Um, but to kind of express those things, because I'm not great at speaking, I'm not great at communicating those feelings, but I can paint and I can write them. And it I guess in that way it's a little validating to like have it out there and
Yeah.
to be able to like speak my truth in that way, even though it's art, not actually words, like
Oh, it's
communicating
talking.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. um I don't know, make painting all of the things and writing. I think it's like healing is like a constant. It doesn't ever, I don't think it's like, oh, now I'm healed.
I'm
Like there's no
healed.
like
Yeah.
end date, right? Because you're constantly going through things. You're going through chaos with whatever. Um, I know that throughout the years that I was with him, a lot of the stuff I did helping veterans and helping spouses helped me feel like I had value
Mhm.
and that I was giving back. And I was giving back. I was helping people. I continue to do that even now. Like now that I'm not working my full-time job in the veteran space, like I still try to give back because it still connects me to that like healing part.
Mhm.
Um, and a constant reminder, like we said at the beginning, like we know the things, we tell people to do the things, but we're not taking that advice ourselves. Um, so, I think that's why I continue to do the things that I can do, like the mental health first aid and the groups and like speaking here with you, like to share to hopefully help somebody else. Um, and kind of just raise awareness
Mhm.
for others and whether you think you're experiencing it, or maybe somebody that is, to be able to talk to them and help.
Yeah.
So
I know you said I'm not that great at communicating. And I'm like, well, you're doing great here. Like, I mean, you really are. Like, yeah, it's I that's exactly why I was so excited because, for everyone else, Tanya has also done some of her um sharing her story about this and some of our groups. And I was like a no-brainer to have you on because um yeah, you do communicate this well, and
well.
you're raw and you're you, and I know it's landing with me, so I know it's landing with other people. It's impactful to me. Um and I always end our sessions by like, all right, anyone could be listening, any of those people in those situations that you just mentioned. Or like you might not know about someone now, but a
Mhm.
year from now you see something and you're like, that doesn't seem right. So if you're that person, listen too. What do you want people to take away? What's like the last little, like, if you got nothing else out of hearing this, hear me now.
Yeah. um I would say, if you're listening and you have that gut feeling or you're living in fear, or if any of those things that I said earlier, like walking on eggshells, even if no one else can see it and you feel it, like believe that and go with it. Believe in yourself. Your fear is real. Um, that's like, it doesn't mean that you're broken. It doesn't mean that you've made all these mistakes. Like maybe you have. Everyone makes mistakes, right? Um, Also, like you aren't the things that that person might be saying to you. Um, Kind of find yourself again. And healing is constant. It doesn't mean that you forget what happened to you, but you don't have to just be in survival mode. And then I'd also say, like, especially if you have children, um, teach them what love should sound like, should look like, what it shouldn't feel like. Because of course, like we still co-parent and he's very different now. So like, I'm super grateful for that, and I'm not perfect, right? So like, there's definitely things that I see and I just want to teach her and teach and make people be more aware of what's healthy and what's not. And be able to apologize for the things that you do wrong and learn from them and keep moving and keep healing and keep trusting yourself. That was really long, but that's what I would say.
But but that's the perfect encapsulation of everything that you said, and the stuff that we know people in those situations don't feel like they don't trust themselves. They believe the things they're hearing about themselves to be true.
Yeah.
So to say, nope, trust your gut and don't believe that because it's not
Yeah.
true. Yeah, or none of us are perfect, but none of us are, none of us should ever be made to like question our self-worth because of another human being, especially someone who's supposed to love us.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone does have value. So,
Yes. Yeah. 100% value. Opposite.
yes.
Yes. Well, Tanya, I'm so incredibly grateful to have you as a leader, period, to have had you been with us for so long. And, I just get a window, but, to have also just known you for this long and seen the pieces of growth and your journey that I've gotten to see. And so I'm super grateful to get to have this conversation with you and for you being willing to just like share, stuff that is hard for people to share. And I know it will make a difference. I know it will. So thank
I
you.
hope so. Well, thank you.
And then everyone listening, I hope this had a similar impact on y'all that it did to me. And we will see you next time.
Thanks again for joining us on the Veteran Spouse Network podcast, brought to you in collaboration with Coming Home Well. We thank you for listening today and hope today's session left you feeling a little more connected or gave you some insight into the experiences of our military and veteran families. Don't forget to check us out at veteranspousenetwork.org to learn more about how our military and veteran families can receive the support they deserve.